Welcome to Friends and Fiction. 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories. Novelists Mary Kay Andrews, Kristin Harmel, Kristy Woodson Harvey, and Patti Callahan Henry are 4 longtime friends with more than 70 published books between them. Together, they host Friends and Fiction, with author interviews and fascinating insider talk about publishing and writing, to highlight and support independent bookstores. They discuss the books they've written, the books they're reading now, and the art of storytelling. If you love books and you're curious about the writing world, you're in the right place.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Friends and Fiction Show. I'm Kristy Woodson Harvey.
I'm Patti Callahan Henry.
And this is Friends and Fiction, 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories to support indie bookstores, authors, and librarians.
So if this is your first time or you haven't been with us before, we hope that you will join our Facebook group, which is now 290,000. You heard that number right. Over 250,000 members strong. It is an incredible community. And we'd like to also invite you to follow us on Instagram and YouTube and to subscribe to our newsletter, which is full of awesome bonus content. You can find out more about our community and all that we have to offer at friendsandfiction.com.
So on this episode, we are going to be talking about debut novels, which we love doing. So we're so excited to welcome Morgan Pager and Laura Dickerman to discuss their brand new novels. Morgan's The Art of Vanishing was released on July 1st, and Laura's Hot Death is set to be released on September 2nd.
So, Kristy, since we're talking about debuts today, I would love for you to tell us about the moment. Not when you got engaged, not when you found out you were pregnant, but that forever memory when you found out that you were getting a book deal.
Yeah, it's actually like probably the third best memory of my life behind those two other things that you just mentioned. So in 2014, I won a writing contest and for a novel that at the time was called, what was it called? Oh my gosh, I can't remember my working title of my debut novel. Oh, that's sad. It'll come to me in a minute. But anyway, it ended up being Dear Carolina. And there was an editor at Berkeley who was a final round judge of that contest, and she really liked the book. And so she reached out to me and asked me for a rewrite. And then I didn't hear anything for a while, because publishing's really slow. And then she kept she'd be in touch with my agent. She would say, well, we're having an editorial board meeting next week and we'll talk about it. Oh, it got pushed today. We'll talk about it next week. Oh, so this went on for weeks. And of course, for them, it's business as usual. For us, it's like our life is like hinging on the moment.
Dangling like a Damocles sword, right?
Yeah. So Will was like almost 2 or about to be 2. And so he was at this like little baby, like preschool 2 days a week. And it was right around the corner from our house. So I would get up and I would stroll into preschool and then I'd stroll back home. So I had just strolled back home and I got the phone call from my agent and he was like, you're going to be a published author. And I couldn't believe it. And I remember him saying to me, like, I'm going to call you back because you're not making any sense. Cause I was like so excited. And I think we envisioned what that moment's going to be like and what we'll do. And I had envisioned what I would do and I didn't do any of it. I went downstairs in my kitchen it was 9:00 in the morning and I got a bottle of champagne and a glass and I went upstairs and had this like tiny baby glass of champagne at my desk in my office all by myself. Cause I was like, I have to like just
mark
this
it
again. Like I couldn't even like call Will or call my mom or like, I couldn't even do any of that because I was so overwhelmed with the idea that this was actually happening. So, it was so exciting. So what about you? Losing the Moon is coming into the world. When did you find out?
I'm always stunned. I know we've told these stories before, but I'm always stunned how similar our stories are because I feel like it's not usually what happens, except that my first novel I wrote was not my first novel published. So same as you. Mm-hmm. Oh, same. Okay. So I had won a contest. I had won the Maggie out of Atlanta. And that got me an agent. Mm-hmm. And my agent tried to sell the book, which was called Between the Tides, and couldn't sell it. and eventually asked me, what else are you working on? And I told her the idea for Losing the Moon. The son of a woman and the daughter of a man are dating, and the mom and dad are old lovers. And their children are dating, and the complications that ensue thereafter. And she was like, finish that. That's the one I can sell. And it sold to NAL, which was the precursor for Berkeley.
Yeah.
So we both won it with a Maggie. We both sold to NAL/Berkeley.
Funny.
And Losing the Moon was the second novel I wrote. But I also, the third familiarity, I was in carpool line for preschool. So all of this happened to me decades before you, because I'm decades older than you. And this was about 1990. No, this is about 2001. My book came out in 2004, 2001, 2002. And I was sitting in carpool line, and she called me on my flip phone and said that we had an offer. And same as you, I freaked out, screamed, but also you don't do what you, because then the business of it takes over.
Right.
Then all of a sudden then I was worrying about things like, do I need a website? What do I do now? Like,
same. I was like, I don't have
I don't know what to do. Yeah.
I hadn't told anyone that I was writing, because I was like, I don't know if I'll ever get published. So I don't want to put
I was totally secretive.
Yeah.
Totally. And I think our guests who we're about to talk to, Morgan and Laura, have both been in the publishing industry.
Right.
You and I weren't when we found out. Like, I had no idea what was coming at me. I think they had a much better idea. So
funny. Yeah, I had no idea. I can't wait to talk to them. Okay. So before we bring them on, let's give everybody a little bit of background on Morgan and Laura.
So Morgan Pager is a professional bookworm. I love this. She is the director of marketing and social media at Atria Books, where I am published, and the content creator behind the wildly popular Instagram account at NYC Book Girl. She is a graduate of Duke University and lives on the Upper West Side with her husband, Dylan, and their cat, Cleo. She loves planners, and she has such pretty ones. Soul Cycle. I love this. Iced pistachio lattes with oat milk. I'm going to remember that the next time, Morgan. I see you. Cooking, yoga, board games, and walking everywhere. As an aside, she does a day in the life of a New York City book publisher and PR girl. And it is so much fun to watch her day in the life. And she does her clothes for books. She's so much fun at it. I'm always jealous of her social media game. Her debut novel, The Art of Vanishing, was just released last month on July 1st. And it tells an original love story between a museum employee and the man who is in the paintings hanging on the walls.
I love it. So Laura Dickerman has an MA in fiction from NYU and an MA in English from Middlebury College's Breadloaf School of English. She has taught high school English at the Hopkins School, the Collegiate School, and Germantown Friends. She was an intern at the Paris Review many years ago. At her lowest point, she spent a month temping for her youngest brother, who was critical of her photocopying skills.
That's hilarious.
I'm like feeling these things that were in her book now that I'm reading her bio. She's been a book club leader, tutor, and recipient of an NEH grant. Laura lives in Atlanta with her husband, and they have 2 grown daughters. Set to be released on September 2nd, Hot Dusk is her first novel. It is a rollicking, charming romantic comedy about friendship, ambition, and love. Alan, can you bring Morgan and Laura on?
Hey, y'all.
Hi. How are you? We are so excited to have you here today. We love talking about debuts, and to have 2 debuts at the same time, it's just so exciting. So to start us off, can you tell us a little bit about this journey to your debut, and how long were you thinking about writing this first novel before you dove in? So Morgan, let's start with you.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Big Friends in Fiction fan. And obviously I get to work very closely with Patti. So this is like a dream come true.
Yeah.
So I have been writing my whole life and playing with writing to express what I'm feeling and to work through emotions, that kind of thing. But it wasn't until 2022 that I came up with the idea for The Art of Vanishing. So I actually had COVID over the holidays when I was in my parents' home. So I was quarantining alone in a bedroom in their home. And I am obsessed with the heist at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. So I was like lying in bed thinking about the heist. Yeah. I mean, anyone who's anyone is.
Anybody who loves the arts, like that is.
Exactly. It's for those who don't know, you will become obsessed, but it's one of the largest unsolved art crimes. In 1990, a bunch of paintings were taken from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston, and they still to this day have truly no leads on who took them and where they remain. And they're masterpieces. Like they are paintings that are forever lost, and it's heartbreaking to art lovers everywhere. But I was lying in bed thinking about how unsatisfying. I love to read about the heist and to watch documentaries and listen to podcasts about it. But at the end of all of them, they're like, and we don't know who took them. And that's just the end of every piece of programming about it.
It's so crazy.
It's so upsetting. And in my, like, I don't know, illness addled brain, I was like, you know, who took those paintings? The people in the paintings on the walls. Like they were there.
That.
Yeah. And so from that idea, I started to play with the idea of the paintings in the museums being alive and sentient and aware of what was happening in the museum in front of them and affected by it. And that's where the idea of The Art of Vanishing came from. So once I had that idea, it really snowballed really quickly into, I know this is a novel. For the first time, I was like, this isn't a short story where I'm playing with something, and this isn't a like narrative essay where I'm working through something. This is a full story that I can see as a full book. And I researched it for about a month, and then I got to jump right into writing.
So fun.
So cool. Okay. So Laura, tell us about this debut and your journey. And because you have been writing for a long time also.
Yeah. Yes and no. I mean, in my younger days, I was a writer. So I was really young. I wrote all the time. I wrote and wrote and wrote, and I was going to be a writer. And I went to, I was a creative writing major at college, and I went to graduate school in writing. And then after that, I became I would like to think of myself as like a writer who was a teacher. And then I was like a teacher who wrote. And then I was a teacher. And then I was, a mother of 2 kids. And then so like time just got away from me. And I always loved writing and books and all of that, but I wasn't particularly disciplined about writing. And then about 20 years ago, my brother, I'm very close. I have 2 brothers, and one of whom is in publishing. I'm super close to them both, but especially Colin, talking about writing. And he called me up about 20 years ago, and he's like, you know what, enough with these kids, and you need to get back to writing. And he gave me an assignment, and I love an assignment. I'm an English teacher. I was like, yes. So he gave me an assignment, and he said, write a novel about a boy who falls in love with a ghost, and make it YA, because that's really big. Again, this is 20 years ago. So I became obsessed, and I wrote this whole novel, and I was like, and I got an agent, and I was like, oh, now I'm going to be, Stephanie Meyer. I thought I was going to, things are going to
dream big, baby, dream big.
Oh, I was like, yes.
Why not?
I had 2 little kids, so then it went nowhere. And that was disappointing. And then 20 years went by, and, I put that novel in the drawer, and I wrote some poems and maybe a short story and things like that. And then both my children went off to college and out of the house. And my brother called me again. He goes, all right, I have an assignment for you. He said, he's, like I said, he's in publishing. And he said, we were on the phone at work today, and they started talking about hot desking. And he said, it's crazy. Like, people have to share desks, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, and I think you should write a novel about 2 young editors who have to share a desk and fall in love. And immediately the whole, like, the characters of Rebecca Bloom and Ben Heath, like, leapt into my head. And I was like, oh, awesome. The whole book was just like there. And it was really, really fun. And we did it at the beginning. I kind of leaned on him because, I mean, honestly, the last time I was in an office was in the 90s, and it was at a school that had been founded in like 1620. So we had a rotary phone and I knew nothing about anything. He was like, this is a phone pod. People go on Zoom and they bring their cats. And I was like, what? So that was a lot of fun. I mean, just kind of talking with him about it, and we shared a Google Doc for a while. And he was, I was like, wait, I would call him up or text him and be like, what happens who pays when an agent and editor have lunch? So he was really helpful to me in that. And then the novel just kind of got away from that a little bit and became something else. I could talk about that later. Became both a couple of different things. And I brought my own experiences into it as well, including 40 years ago when I was the intern at the Paris Review for a year. So that became part of the novel. But it was, it was really fun, and it all happened really fast. I wrote it pretty quickly, got an agent pretty quickly, a different agent, and sold it quickly. And it was just incredibly exciting. So
I love that. Do you think that you'll go back to that YA novel, and try to sell it again?
My agent's interested in looking at it. I haven't
Sounds
sent
really good. I was like, oh, that's really captivating.
Morgan's like, oh, wow.
I would totally read that. Yes, absolutely.
I know. We're like, Hot Dust was amazing. Let's do this too.
Right, exactly. Right. My drag up that one. No, it's funny. I did think about sometimes the only problem with that one is that it was a 2-part novel. So it ended kind of on a cliffhanger, and I have not written the second part. So I'm like, I would have to spend some time doing that. But yeah, it's been amazing. It's been a lot of fun.
Great. Well, stay tuned, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Just like any good cliffhanger, you'll let us know.
Right.
Exactly.
So Morgan, I'm going to shift on back here to you, and I'm so happy you're here. I was privileged to read this novel months ago and gave it a blurb. And one of the things I said is that you gift us with an unforgettable journey that captures the magic that lives between logic and imagination. So I want to talk about that. So for those of you who don't know yet, but you will because you're going to get this book, in The Art of Vanishing, a museum employee discovers she can step inside the frames of the paintings, and she begins a glamorous and exciting and improbable love affair with one of the painting's subjects. They carry out their relationship each night inside the worlds of art all around her. So you don't just enter one painting. And when I suggested this on GMA, I described this book as one of my favorite kinds of novels where the real world and magic collide. So if I'm saying what that book is about, what would you, Morgan Pager, say the book is really about?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, Patti, which is that it's about a kind of magic that could exist in our world if we all just paid a little bit more attention.
Love that.
And a magic that women in particular hold in this book. So I love stories like that, whether they are much larger scale magic, like I love The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, or whether they have a quieter kind of magic that you don't necessarily understand how it works, but it's plausible that it could work. And I love fantasy too, don't get me wrong, but this is not full scale fantasy where there's a map at the beginning and there are worlds that need to be built. Instead, we get to step into these pre-existing worlds, which is how I imagine life to be. I was a really imaginative child, and I loved the novel From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basiley Frankweiler when I was a kid, which is the best middle grade novel. Probably one of the first chapter books that I ever was this book is special to me. And it's about a girl and her younger brother which I was a girl with a younger brother, and I was in charge of our relationship in the way that Claudia is in charge in the book. And they sneak into the Met and they spend the week there sleeping in the beds in the decorative wings and bathing in the fountain and hiding in the bathroom stalls when the security guards come through and eating out of the vending machine. And I was like, nothing could be better than to be that close to art and inside of a museum and getting to live out that fantasy. So writing this book was really a way for me to get to experience that playfulness, and then hopefully my readers to get to experience it as well.
Oh, that's amazing.
I love that.
Wait, I want to know, how did you pick the painting? How did you decide which painting?
Yes, absolutely. So, so after I went through my brain experiment with the Isabel Stewart Gardner, I was like, well, I obviously can't set the novel there because I'm not going to solve the heist at the end of this book.
Right.
So I went looking for a museum that was similar to the ISG, and the Barnes Foundation in Philadelphia is very much of the same sort. It's a intimate museum owned by one collector who decided where all of the art in the museum went in the same way that the ISG is, who had like a very kooky and specific vision for where everything should be. And it's also full of masterpieces. So I picked the Barnes, and before I had the opportunity to travel there, I went to the New York Public Library, which has amazing arts resources. And I flipped through the books they have on the Barnes in their arts wing in the main branch. And I truly went looking for a painting with a guy that had like a guy you could have a crush on inside one of the paintings. And I found this painting and was like, oh, he's reading a book. He's so handsome. This could totally work.
Perfect.
And yeah, little did I know that in person, the painting is like 10 feet tall, and Claire, our protagonist, would be exactly at eye level with him. It's kind of the perfect setup for like a painting you would want to step right into. But even just from seeing him on the page of a book, I was like, oh, he could be a main character in a novel. So that's how I picked it.
Love it. I love these stories behind the stories.
Yeah. I know. Okay, so Laura, we talked a little bit about like how you came to write Hot Dusk, but just to give a little more to readers who aren't as familiar with the book, Rebecca and Ben, who you mentioned, are two up and coming editors working for two different publishing houses and hot dusking, which you explained a little bit. So when the Lion, who is the nickname for literary icon Edward David Adams, dies, they find themselves competing over his literary estate, even though they've never actually met each other. So as the battle gets more heated, Rebecca discovers that her mother, Jane, had a secret connection to the Lion. And Rebecca gets a glimpse into the 1980s publishing world, which is a space she never even knew her mother inhabited, and discovers that her mother has a past that will change everything. So that's a little bit about what this book is about. Can you tell us what it's really about?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this book was so fun to write, and I was like having such a great time with like the workplace satire and the like witty banter and the romantic slow burn and all of that. But then it became more and more apparent as I was writing it that the heart of the book for me was the friendship between Jane and Rose, and that's the dual timeline. This is the one that takes place in the early 1980s, and I think it kind of ends up like it's got this romance quality with Rebecca and Ben and all that. But to me, what it's really about is it's about friendship, and particularly women's friendship. And it's about women's voices and how women's voices are heard and how women's voices can be reclaimed. And it's about mothers and daughters. And it's about being young and enthralled with New York City, back then and now. And it's about, publishing and books and writers and all these different kinds of love. That's what I would say.
I love that.
Look how well your books overlap in this.
I know, it's so interesting. Well, and the cultural references in this book I absolutely loved, and the banter was so good. And I just have to tell you this because I thought it was so funny. So there's this text exchange between Rebecca and her best friend, and she's like joking about like, what should I wear to, like the biggest day of her career. And she texts her back, your apple bottom jeans and boots with the fur, which is like such a reference of mine. And so I was really interested. So my son is 13. And I went downstairs and I was like, would you know what it meant if I said my apple bottom jeans and boots with the fur? And he was like, the whole club was looking at her. And I was like, oh, good. It really holds up. Like, that's so good that like, we're continuing the cultural. It just made me laugh so hard. Like there are just some things like but you have some great cultural references that just brought me back to like a very specific place in time.
Yeah. I mean, it was funny writing about, cause I came to New York City. I graduated from college in 1985 and came to New York City and started working, at the Parish Review and going to graduate school and all of that. But when I went to look at where I wanted to play, have that part of the book take place, I decided to do it a couple years earlier, 1980, 81, 82, just because I wanted to be absolutely sure people were still on their typewriters, people were still on the rotary phones, and just not to, because that was right at that time they were just starting to introduce like a computer and floppy disks and stuff like that. But I wanted to be a little before then. So when I was researching them going out at night, I was like, oh yeah, what about, this club or that club? And then I would look it up. I'm like, oh no, that didn't open until 1985 when I was at it. But I had to go make sure I just wanted to be really accurate with what was open, what was around, what was going on at that time.
Well, it is such a fun dichotomy, like between the two time periods. Like you get such a distinctive feeling of like, wow, it's not that much time, but the world was so wildly different, which you bring that out really well in the book.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, but so we all know, you guys might have heard, romance is having a moment right now. And both of these novels have such an interesting twist on the workplace romance. So for Laura, there's this kind of enemies to lovers, except that the enemies haven't actually met until like halfway through the book, which I love because they have so many preconceived notions about each other. There's some great miscommunications before they ever even meet. And of course, the cactus, but I'll let people read that for themselves. And then Morgan, I mean, talk about a fun workplace romance, a love affair between a museum employee and the subject of a painting. So Laura, I'm interested in a moment when love stories are having such a moment. Why was it important to you to include this element in the story? Because it really is so much fun.
Well, I mean, that's such a great question because for me, I was really interested at first, like I said, to write what in my mind, this is a rom-com, right? This is going to be enemies to lovers and it's going to be a slow burn. And then it was like a really slow burn, like a slow burn, like you said, they don't actually lay eyes on each other till more than halfway through the book. But to me, it was really important to write about, romantic love that between people who had already, that I feel like I had shown that they had really rich, full lives with friends and family and work before they even laid eyes on each other. So I really just like this idea. Like for me as a 62-year-old woman, like I have madly in love with my husband. He's the best, but I also have all of these, and I also have all of these really, strong friendships with women. I have friendships with men, straight, gay. I have friendships, that are really important to me. I'm really close to my family. And I just wanted to make sure that in I wanted in my book, like to reflect that romance, like there's a kind of, the way that the two timelines mirror each other. There's this romance between Rebecca and Ben. That's kind of, I think it's funny and kind of hot and romantic and all that. But there's also this kind of the romance of friendship with women, like that sort of the way you're excited to see your friend and the way you stay up all night talking. And those things were important to me as well. And I wanted to show them as really, well-rounded people in their own right before they kind of came crashing together in this like romantic way. So that was important to me.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay. So Morgan, again, on the love story, I am just wondering, I mean, we're so involved in this book. Like we are there for it. Like we are along for the ride, but I'm wondering, like, when you set out to pitch this novel, were you ever a little bit worried that maybe not even readers, but I guess, editors who are looking at this book might be like, yeah, no. I mean, right. Cause it is a really different concept.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, it's so interesting. I was thinking about this listening to you two tell the stories of getting your first book deals because it's a period that is at once so exciting and also like imbued with so much rejection. And everyone says like it only takes one yes, which is so true. It takes a yes from an agent and a yes from a publisher for a book to get traditionally published in the way that all of ours are. But in addition to like having your dreams come true, you're also hearing no so many times at the same time.
Much.
Yes. So it's like a funny mental game. And I definitely found that not so much because of the love story, but because of the necessity to suspend disbelief to go into this story, I got some immediate like, oh, I don't do speculative kind of pieces to it. And in my head, I don't think of this book as being particularly speculative. I get that it's true magic and it can happen in real life. So maybe that is actually the definition of speculative and I need to come back down to earth a little bit. But I didn't feel like it was so far outside of the bounds of reality. And so I was surprised by that feedback and I did get it. I did get no's for that exact reason. But I also understand that that's some people's wheelhouses and it's not others. Like it does really help to have someone in the pages with you who can kind of track, like, this is when I put this piece together. And this is a part where the magic doesn't work the way you described that it did the chapter before, that kind of piece of it. So I do appreciate the expertise that my editor brought to the project. But I did feel like I was surprised to get that initial round of feedback. So, but I'm like glad to have it. If you can't suspend your disbelief, this book is totally not for you.
It's not for you.
Right?
Yeah. And actually we talk about this a lot. Like, I think when you start out, sometimes you're like, this book is for everyone. And then you realize like into your career, you're like, the more specific you can get, on this is my reader, like the better your book is going to do, because your reader really knows what to expect and you know who your reader is. And I think it's like we go into it thinking the opposite, and then that's really not true. I thought it was that we obviously loved it, thought it was a fabulous concept, but I do think there's some things that when you read in the book, it's different than like at the very first, when you're like, it's about this. And people are like,
yes, definitely. And I also wouldn't call it, to a romance reader who only wants to read romance novels, I would not call it a romance novel, because it doesn't fit into those buckets either.
No, neither of these are romance novels. I should say that. But
yes, they're both love. I mean, I haven't read Laura's yet. I'm going to go to the office and beg her marketing person for a copy of it tomorrow.
I was gonna say, y'all are on the same floor.
I know. I've been tracking for sure. Right. But I do feel like they're both love stories, and they're love stories about more than just romantic love.
Absolutely.
And so they do answer that, like.
And I also think, I mean, it seems to me that, I mean, just kind of expanding what I'm reading and thinking about different kinds of books, like there's much more genre bending, genre mixing, like a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Like, so you use the words like enemies to lovers or slow burn, but it's not fully that genre. There's other pieces that come together, and I'm really interested in that. I'm really interested in like pulling from different genres and then kind of bucking expectations and making something a little bit new, which could obviously annoy people if they want something, that's more expected.
I hadn't thought of the phrase workplace romance when paired with Art of Vanishing until this conversation. And now I'm kind of obsessed. I'm like, that's so perfect. It's the ultimate workplace romance. It's there's no power dynamic. There's no, need for HR. It's just like the ideal version.
You should really capitalize on like this week.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, this is an interesting week for workplace romance. Now, moving on. So I know that my debut was not the first book I wrote. You heard us talking about it on the front end. And Laura, you've already answered this. So I'm going to flip this over to you, Morgan. Is this the first novel you've ever written? Now, let me back this up by saying you're involved in storytelling in a million ways. Your social media, your job in PR and marketing, your husband is in the theater world. So you are quite literally surrounded by and buffeted by stories all the time. Is this the first time you tried to write a novel?
This is the first novel I've ever written from start to finish. I've got a bunch of journals from middle school and high school that have like 2/3 of a novel inside of them that I honestly should go back and dig up at some point. And I've written some plays before because I was both an English and theater studies major in college. So that was part of my creative writing requirement for my theater studies degree. But this is the first novel that I've written. And it was honestly the first project where I could see the end, where I was like, I know what the end of this book is going to look like. And that's why I know that it's 85,000 words and not something different, not a different format. And the book has changed so much through the revision process, but the end has stayed the same the whole time. And so I do feel gratified and feeling like I was onto something there.
Interesting.
So I want you to both tell us about the moment you found out or that you accepted a book deal. Laura, do you want to go first?
Sure. As I said, my brother was involved, sort of from the beginning. And so my agent, Elizabeth Weed, and my brother and I had we have still a group text called Hot Desk. And so we text each other back and forth a lot on it. And everything happened very quickly for me. I was extremely lucky. And so Elizabeth got the manuscript. She was excited. She right away sent it out. And then pretty quickly we had a preempt offer. So from Allison Callahan at Gallery. And so we were just like, well, what should we say? What should we do? What's this going to be? What's going to happen? Just back and forth on the text. And I met with a couple different editors and met with Allison and really liked her. And then just again, like the next day, it all just happened very, very quickly. So I remember the moment when we decided we were all like, yes, 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 about Allison's offer. And so it just was really fast, and it was really fast. But again, let me remind you, I'm 60, so it was also not not as the fast as it was. All very quick, but then
no, the timing was right. That's the best way to say it.
Timing was
The
right.
timing was
Exactly.
right.
It was a long time coming, and then boom, it happened,
Boom.
and it was totally thrilling and
a 20-year
really
overnight
exciting.
Success.
Exactly. It was really exciting. And you were both talking about, having a little glass of champagne and stuff. And my husband came home and we did some champagne, but I remember going outside and I think I don't remember exactly what was going on. I think maybe somebody was here about something, I forget. And I just told this guy, I was like, I just sold my book. And he was like, well, congratulations. I think he was like doing something, I don't know. I don't know what he was doing. I forget, but he was, it was very funny. He was very happy for me. But I had to tell somebody in person. So
cute.
How about you, Morgan?
Mine and Laura's stories are so similar because mine also moved really quickly because a preempt came in. And so I met first with the agent or the editor that I ended up getting to work with, and then a couple others, none of whom kind of measured up in terms of editorial vision to Hillary. And so it was kind of a similar day where like an offer came through on Thursday night and we spent Friday kind of working on it, talking about it. So like as Friday progressed, I had the growing feeling that like we were going to get to sell the book and I was going to get to work with the editor that I wanted to work with. And I can like picture myself standing outside of the Upper West Side Barnes and Noble, talking to my parents on the phone and telling them that we were going to do it and that like it was happening and it was becoming real. And I can't remember where I was going. That's like 20 blocks away from my apartment. I can't remember where I was coming from or why I was there, but I can like picture myself standing on this street corner. So now every time I walk up and down that block, I think of that moment and that phone call, and kind of who I like was standing there on that street corner, like yelling about this, being like, "Oh, I don't know who's overhearing this, but whatever. They get this information too." So
they all get to know too.
Yeah.
Oh, hilarious. And probably never. Yeah.
And what I said to Laura before we came on screen was, there's only one first time. And this is so exciting, right? Getting the first phone call, the first offer, the first debut.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying just so I don't even have to try. I'm not taking any of it for granted. It's so thrilling. It's so fun. It's just, it's sort of, it's really, really delightful just to do it and to be able to enjoy it so much. And also, again, I mean, to feel like I'm at an age where I don't know. I just feel like I'm confident. I'm comfortable in myself. I'm not, although I did, when I found out I was going to be on this program with Morgan, I was like, oh, Morgan Pager, she sounds nice. And I looked her up on Instagram and I was like, oh my God, do I have to do this for Instagram? And then I realized you were in marketing and public, and I was like, okay, phew. But it was a little bit like, wow, look at her. I'm the New York,
she's
city.
So good at it.
I've been doing it for so long before I even knew this was my dream. And Laura, I was thinking about the first, and the one that you're definitely still about to get to have is holding the finished book in your hand for the first time, because that's crazy to see it fully there. And I felt that way when I got the galleys. I was like, wow, it really looks like a real book. But then seeing the finished book and seeing it in my neighborhood bookstore, like on the front table that I've walked into a million times, that was a feeling I'll really never forget. So I can't wait for you to get experience that.
It's been a great touchstone to follow you and to see all the things, because you're about 2 months ahead of me. So like, oh, there she's reading at the,
I know. Trust me. I look at what she does and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try that.
Yeah. No, I've tried. It took me an hour the other day to post 2 pictures.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like she does it while keeping Kristy's the same way. They can both post while keeping eye contact with you. Excuse me, I need a minute.
It's an adaptation. It's like opposable thumbs, where you've just
right.
It's like a second brain now, totally.
Okay,
my child does not have social media. He does not have it, but I can be like, hey, can you take a video for me and put it on mine? And he does not do it ever, but can do mine in 3 seconds, and it takes me it's crazy. No, but okay, I have to ask you all this really quickly because I'm just so interested. So obviously, Morgan, you're very much in the publishing world, and Laura, you have a brother who's very much in the publishing world. I think Patti and I would both say we went into this la la la, we had no idea. I had no idea what to expect. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know anyone in publishing. I didn't know any writer. Like, I was just like, I'm going to have a book. Like, I had no idea. Do you ever feel like you know too much? So Laura, I'm going to start with you.
I don't. No, I don't, because I think I had no idea about the army of people. Sort of, I was like, oh, an editor and an agent. I knew about that. Right.
Okay.
But there's just, I mean, I'm obsessed now with book covers. That is incredible to me. How fun. If I had any artistic talent whatsoever, I would want to be a, graphic designer for books. Like, you read books and you come up with these incredible artistic gripping covers. That's been fascinating. And then the assistants that I'm constantly, will you do this? Can you do that? And they're great. Shout out Taylor. But I mean, it's just people in this whole marketing, publicity. I call them my 12-year-olds. They'll be annoyed to hear that. But these young women who are like Morgan, who are doing this incredible work for the book. And I just, that whole world I knew something about, but certainly not the how much it goes on behind the scenes to help you out and to get your book, all the people. So that's been amazing. And I feel really fortunate.
All right, Morgan, do you know too much?
Yeah, I 100% know too much. I know what everything means. So like when they say this is the amount of books that are going out, or this is the media you're getting, like I know exactly where that puts me in the
secret language,
the sphere of the publishing piece. Yeah. There have been some things where they've asked my opinion and I've been like, oh, we have to go back and slow down. That's actually not my department. So while I feel like at Atria, we're so collaborative that I have a really holistic view of how everything works, I don't actually know the nitty gritty of everything. And I really enjoyed the copy editing process. Was so brand new to me. And I assumed that copy editing was like proofreading. And instead it's like, fact checking meets timeline meets proofreading, but it's really about like, okay, the museum is open Wednesday to Sunday and this supposedly happens on a Monday night. So that's not possible. Like, like that kind of thing. So I loved that piece of the puzzle and putting it together and of getting to work with my two amazing copy editors and seeing the conversation between them in the notes as well. So that was really fun. And then the thing that I feel like I've really gotten out of this is like such, empathy and understanding for our authors and for what they're going through. And I feel like having a full-time job has kept my brain really divided in two different places. So like, I just don't have the time to stress Monday through Friday, 9 to 6 about the publication because my brain is so focused on work. But I understand how, yes. I understand how if you didn't have that kind of time commitment, like you would spiral. Like I really, and I've spiraled all the other hours of the day. Don't get me wrong. But I just have like
96 when you were working on my book. I don't know.
Which I love. That doesn't cause me to spiral at all. I love doing that. But I just have like real understanding for what it takes to get a project off the ground like this after the writing piece of it is done now.
Yeah. I love that.
All right. I need to know really quickly from each of you, are you already working on another novel? Laura?
Yes, but I've got 2 chapters. But it's a lot of it's in my head. Almost all of it's in my head. That's
working on the next novel.
That's how I work. Yeah. So 2 chapters. And my brother's already harassing me to do more. But I have a couple of ideas for different novels, and this is the one that came to the forefront. And so I'm excited about it. And like I said, all characters are locked in there. And it's just a matter of, I do want to enjoy, like we were just talking about, all the firsts and the first book and all of that. But it's also, there's something I think important about knowing that no matter what happens, and this has all been like this incredible lucky dream and all of that, no matter what happens, there's another book, there's something else I'm going to write. And that process and doing that is, I like knowing that that's there as well.
It's very grounding.
Yeah, it is. It is. And that's the process of it. And writing this book, I feel like unlocked for me, the kind of book, like writing the kind of book I want to read in a way. And I think for a long time, I wasn't doing that. And so then I didn't write. So in doing that, just carrying over that sort of that voice and that, the humor and feeling as though this worked really well for me with Hot Desk because that was so much fun to write and I enjoyed it and all of that. that kind of carrying that over into this new book has been really fun. And I feel optimistic about it, as I need to start doing more actual writing, but it's all in here.
How about you, Morgan?
Yes, I am about a third of the way, I think, into my next book. And I am experiencing what Laura is saying, which is I worked on it last fall and this spring after I finished The Art of Vanishing. And I do feel like it gave my brain something new to chew on.
Very grounding.
Yes. And I feel like I've become a better writer since then because I've read so much since then. And so now I'm in love with the second book. Like I also love The Art of Vanishing, but I'm really obsessed with the next one. So, I'm very excited to get back into it. I've taken a pause to focus on promotion of The Art of Vanishing, but I miss them and I want to go back and see them again. So
awesome. That's great. Okay. Well, Morgan and Laura, if you would stick around, we have more to talk to you about. But first, a few quick reminders for our listeners and viewers out there.
So for all of you watching and listening, we encourage you. No, we more than encourage. What's a word bigger than encourage? We insist that you rush out and buy your copies of The Art of Vanishing and Hot Desk. Now, the perfect place to do that, to support independent bookstores, is the Friends and Fiction Shop on bookshop.org.
Love it. Okay. And don't forget to visit friendsandfiction.com for details on our show schedule, our upcoming in-person events, and links to our merch store, our Substack newsletter sign up, and the Friends and Fiction official book club with Brenda and Lisa. Speaking of the book club, they are doing a live happy hour at 7 p.m. Eastern on Friday, August 8th with our own Ron Block and several special guests to celebrate their 5-year anniversary. And they've planned a weekend of live in-person events in Atlanta, August 8th through 10th to mark their 5th anniversary.
Now, I want to talk about our Substack for a minute, because I've become vaguely obsessed with Substack. Yeah. I love reading essays there and newsletters. It is such an incredible place to find inspiration and news. And
there was a whole article in Town and Country last month about subscribing to your friends' Substacks and the etiquette around it. It's amazing. Okay.
Oh my gosh, I have to go find that.
Like I'm saying, that's what a cultural phenomenon Substack is. Like,
right.
To get
I go every day.
Real estate, it's got to be pretty big.
Right. Yeah, I go every day and check out what's going on from some of my favorite authors. But anyway, Friends and Fiction has a Substack. So does Kristy. So do I. Do y'all have one yet, Laura and Morgan?
Yes.
Oh, Laura will have one next week. But
I'm following Morgan. Morgan, I got to look at yours.
I'm going to go read everything Morgan has to say about book publishing. But you can read all of our free weekly posts on the Substack website or app, or subscribe to get them in your inbox. So if you upgrade to our paid Substack, which is only $5 a month, you get deeper dives with our weekly show guests. We have interviews with both Morgan and Laura that are only on the paid Substack. We have monthly roundup discussions. Meg Walker just did one with 11 crime fiction writers, some of your very favorite crime fiction writers. We have authors like Christine Pride and Adam Roberts. We have a whole bunch of new ones right now. So if you enjoy tuning in for our weekly author interviews, this is a huge way that you can support us for about $1 a week, which is less than the pistachio lattes that Morgan gets. I'm
like
just
saying. A lot.
The next time you come to the city, I'm going to take you there, Patti. Don't worry.
It's about the price
I'm
of
100% counting on it.
Yes.
So Friends and Fiction has also recently partnered with Talitha Coffee, a woman survivor-founded company based in California. With a deep passion for combating human trafficking, Talitha's co-founder, Jenny Barber, was determined to make a difference after witnessing the devastating intergenerational impact of the issue from a young age. So every time you buy Talitha Coffee, you help change lives through hiring, training, and comprehensive support for survivors of sex trafficking. Join us in making a difference, one cup at a time. To mail order Talitha's ethically sourced, intentionally roasted coffee, visit www.talitha.com/friendsandfiction.
All right, ladies, back to you before we let you go to write your next novel that we want to read. I need to know, and everybody watching and listening needs to know, how can people connect with you? Not only online, but if you're going to be on the road or on book tour. Morgan, your book is already out. Laura, yours is about to come out. So tell us where to find you. Morgan, you want to go first?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram or TikTok at NYC Book Girl is my handle. You can also find me at nycbookgirl.com or morganpager.com. And then through there, you can find the link to subscribe to my Substack.
There you go.
Mentioned. Yeah. And then I do have one event following this on the night after this airs on August 7th. If you happen to be in Glen Ridge, New Jersey, I'm doing an event at Glen Ridge Country Club with Beatrice Williams.
Nice.
And then stay tuned on my social media and website for any more events to follow.
That's awesome. How about you, Laura?
I have on Instagram, which is Laura Dickerman Writer. And then I have a website, lauradickermanwriter.com. And on the website, I have you can email me through that. And then I have events. I have the book debut celebration is going to be at the Strand in New York City on publication day.
Fun.
Yeah, which is great because that's a bookstore that I used to. Yeah, when I was in graduate school, I used to sell my textbooks there and stuff. So that's really exciting. And that's on September 2nd, which is the publication date. That's in New York City at the Strand. And then then I go to Chicago. And then on Friday, September 5th, I'm doing the same thing in Atlanta, where I live now through Acapella Books, which is a great bookstore in Atlanta at Manuel's Tavern. So, but I'm adding things as they come up on the website. And then I'm obviously going to be doing everything that Morgan does, but just behind her. I'll be getting, yeah, we'll see. I suppose, I don't know if I have to do TikTok or not. Morgan can tell me, but.
You don't have to.
Thank
Certainly
you.
Not.
I don't do TikTok if that's.
Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. I can't. There's no dancing or anything for me, but privately, yes.
Yeah. So Morgan and Laura, thank you so much for joining us. It has been such a pleasure speaking with you, and we look forward to following along with your releases.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful. This is my first one of these. So,
yay! Okay,
exciting.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun.
You never forget your first.
Yeah, I will never.
Anyway, everyone out there, be sure to tune in next week when Ron and I will welcome Victoria Benton Frank to discuss her newest, The Violet Hour. That show will air on Wednesday, August 13th, and will be on the podcast on August 15th.
Awesome. Thanks to all of you out there for being with us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in. You can join us every week on Facebook or YouTube, where our live show airs on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram. We're so glad you're here.